This is the Simply Love Jesus podcast, where we explore life and faith through the lens of one question, which is, what does it mean to simply love Jesus? My name is Caleb, and I am joined by our new primary host, Mr. Adrian Laster.
Hey, how you doing, people?
How you doing, sir?
Doing great. How
That's
about
good.
you?
Good. We are currently snacking on some good seafood. I don't know if it really qualifies as seafood, though, because it's like literally I'm having like a grilled cheese that has crab and lobster, and you're having like loaded lobster fries or something like that. So I don't know if that
Sauteed.
does that qualify as seafood?
I would say it qualifies as seafood.
Okay. So we're having seafood, and it's pretty good. But this is your first time tuning into our podcast, or your first time in a long time. So glad that you are here. So grateful that you just wanted to come hang out with us. We are in a series, or we're in a new conversation segment right now, where we are just having a conversation with Adrian to learn more about his life, learn more about him, his ideas, and his convictions, all so that you guys can become more familiar with him as a person and as a voice. So once we're finished with the conversation series or conversation segment, he will be the one who will be primarily running our podcast and the one kind of driving the train and I don't know, in the driving seat of the car. I don't know. We're having a conversation with Adrian.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed it so far. Last episode was really great. And last time we talked a little bit more. Excuse me, I'm eating my food. Last time we talked a little bit more about like your childhood and growing up, and it's a little bit more about the ideas of when you came to know who Jesus is and how that impacted and influenced your life. And so today, I really want to talk more about like where you feel like your life is right now, and how like even where you are today and what you believe on just life in general, what you believe in on your ideas about the church or the Bible, or just kind of what floats around in your mind today. So give me just like, what is one thing that you feel like has been sticking on your mind with the Bible? Like, what's something that, you know how like sometimes we go in seasons and we just have certain things that just latch onto us and we're just kind of like all about that for a little while? Do you have something like that in your life right now?
How it's all about unity and togetherness, and just like doing life with people of faith, like, you know, expressing that community, and just knowing that that we need people to call us out, you know, when we're not in the right or lining up biblically. Having that community that helping us, like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. How do you feel like you've seen that play out in your life recently?
Well, I can see how it played out in my life recently, just, you know, being more involved with SLJ, and then you know, offering me this, you know, just off of just the small little tidbits of, you know what I mean, like saying podcasts or small talk, you know, here and there at different worship nights.
Yeah.
And then also just, honestly, just my girlfriend, Olivia, just like.
Shout out to Olivia.
Shout out to my baby.
Yeah, our music director.
Yes.
Killing it. Leads worship every Thursday on TikTok Live for us. She's incredible, and I'm really excited for how her role is going to be fleshed out more in the coming months as we do our monthly events, and she really fills in that music director role. I'm just really excited. I think it's going to be really fun. But she's awesome, so we can't say enough about her.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like the way that you've been experiencing community right now? How do you see that differently in comparison to the community currently around you? So like you're big about this unity, and you're seeing that played in your life through your involvement of our ministry, through your relationship with Olivia, but clearly something you're receiving in your life you feel like is missing in other people's life, or else it wouldn't really be a conviction for you right now. Does that make sense? So how do you feel like what you're experiencing right now is something that you wish other people had?
Well, necessarily everybody is wired differently, but just the principle of, you know, just having someone being there, wanting to do life with you and wanting to wrestle through the thoughts with you and just through the mess of life. And not saying anything like, any toxic relationships or anything, you would have with your friends or people you would want to date, but just like in a healthy way though.
Yeah.
In a healthy tussle, like that it's not all on that person, but the fact that the person is like, I want to do life with you.
Yeah.
Like when they were speaking today about just going through the tussles of life, like when you say you want to do life with someone, like you see the person. A lot of times when you say that, you come in, it depends on which side you come in, and you see that person unpolished, and then you can't so much say you want to do life with someone that that's unpolished, but you see someone that is polished and that's not broken or has a little bit together, and you like, you want to jump. You know what I mean? Like, so I think people could benefit with having someone that can give them the grace that God extends to them, and that they have actually extended in their own lives to themselves, so they can actually extend it to other people.
What do you feel like is necessary for that to happen?
What I think is necessary for that to happen is for a lot of people to realize that they're not perfect. They're not robots. That God sees us as deserving and clean and worthy because of his son Jesus. I think when people get that basic concept and just start loving themselves, but loving themselves first, but not in a selfish way, but in a way that's like they're not putting themselves down or any insecurity or trying to wrestle through that on their own, but also in a way that that they're able to love on their neighbors, because it does say in the Bible, one of the greatest commandments is love Jesus, but also to love your neighbors as thyself. How can you love your neighbors as yourself if you really don't love yourself or really even like yourself? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like there's even a part of that where, because I feel like most people would admit that they are not perfect. Most people know they got issues, they got problems. And you mentioned this before, where it's like you feeling like you're this unpolished person, and in the face of someone who's put together, or looks put together, because nobody's really put together, but someone who looks polished and put together, there's a certain level of intimidation that comes with that. And when someone feels intimidated in the face of someone that they feel like in the back of their mind is better than them, then it makes them want to put on their best self, right? And there's so many people who know that they are not perfect, and I feel like the big difference from getting here to there, from getting from a place of wanting community and having community, the difference is the bravery to be vulnerable, to be transparent. And a lot of people are, well, that was really loud when I said that. A lot of people are scared to be vulnerable, and they're scared to be transparent because they have a fear of being exposed, and they have a fear of that when they are exposed, people will reject them. And so how do you speak into that specific fear? How would you speak into that?
Well, I was speaking to it that the person that is more put together, and I'm not saying that's like so much like the dynamics of me and my relationship with Olivia. Like she's the one that's gotten me to see that people are human, no matter how further along that they are. So just from the perspective that she has, that people that know that they are looked at, and that people do look to them as the example, or someone that's more put together in the family, or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I think it's a responsibility on them to be like, hey, this is not how I've always been.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying bring all of their cats out of the bag, but just being vulnerable and be like, hey, this took a process of maturation for me. Like, what you see today is what God has forged me through the fire of.
Yeah.
And the person that's, I think the person that's unpolished, when they hear somebody else's testimony, and remember what I think I lamented on this previously, or it's just even between our talks, like your testimony can be somebody else's deliverance.
Yeah.
And I believe however much you want to shape, because your testimony is whatever you feel like should be said. And once you own that, it helps a lot of other people not be so insecure about themselves, because they feel like they have to be like the Beyoncés or the Kanyes of the world.
Yeah.
You know, though they tried their best to say like, yo, I haven't had it always this way, but for somebody that you can reach across the table with, that you already, like you're a pastor or something that you feel like is already put together, if they can be like, yo, like, I haven't always been like this, you know, without going into too much details, this is what I've been through, just giving you like a little roadmap.
Yeah. Now, what about, so that's some perspective of someone who is coming across as polished, like, hey, just be vulnerable, be transparent, be real. What about the person who knows they're not perfect or unpolished, but feels intimidated by someone who they think is polished and put together? How do you challenge the unpolished person to be the brave one, to step up and be vulnerable in the face of fear of the intimidation of other people, you know?
Well, I'm working through that as well myself, but just be honest. Just be honest and transparent. You don't have to divulge everything, but just divulge the things of where you're currently at, where your headspace is at, what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Your yeses and nos, but also just like when you say that, whether that person hangs that over your head or not, just let it be. God's put you in this position, this space, that interaction with that person, whether it turns out good or bad, God still has your back. So you have to have that confidence of, no matter how I'm feeling, whether it's self-talk in my head or how that person may be thinking in their head and they're trying to wrestle through their own thoughts, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to make sure that the people that you're in community with and the people that you come across, that you are transparent and you're honest about the things that you do feel that you want to share.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also even like a part of it is understanding and having a shift in perspective. I think when we change the way that we think, we change the way that we live. And if you come to the self-realization that everyone is imperfect, then you choosing to be brave and choosing to be vulnerable is actually a service to other people. Because by you choosing to be the brave one and you choosing as the person who knows they're broken, knows they're unpolished, knows they're imperfect, but your decision to then open up and be vulnerable to the quote-unquote polished person gives them the permission and to see that bravery, and they can relate and resonate with that, because they may be working really hard to hold it all together, and they may be working really hard to make it look like they've got all their ducks in a row. But the moment that they come face to face with someone else who chooses to be vulnerable, it then challenges them to be the one who opens up. Everyone is just a person. There is no person who's just better than another person. Like, no celebrity is just naturally perfect. They're just people. That's why I don't ever have a problem. I don't know if problem's the right word, but I don't usually get starstruck. I met an actor, really, really famous actor, a couple weeks ago, and they're like, all sorts of different movies or whatever. And when I met them, I was sitting down, we were grabbing coffee, they just had me sitting there, and it was just us in like the little coffee shop or whatever. So I was sitting down, and dude came up to me, and he was just like, hey, guy likes, was asking for a napkin. And I was like, yeah, of course, yeah. He was, and I was like, you want to sit? He was like, sure. We just had a whole conversation. I just got to talk to this person, yada, yada, yada. And they told me, and they were just like, listen, they were like, you don't understand. Most people, when I talk to them, they all get like, oh my God, you're famous. You're amazing. I want a picture with you. Like all this stuff, whatever. Like most people are just like, they get starstruck. And they're like, they told me, they said, I appreciated that you weren't. I appreciated that you just treated me like a person. And that's what it was. I was like, because at the end of the day, I don't get starstruck with people because I'm like, you're just a person who has a job. You're good at your job. People know you for it. That's it. And when you choose to be vulnerable, I say all that to say this. When you choose to be vulnerable, you break down people's walls and defenses. And you are actually, in a small way, you are shepherding someone to be a better version of themselves by choosing to be the brave one in your own unpolished, broken way, that you choose to just be vulnerable and you share that with someone. You are shepherding the person in front of you to also be authentic. And because you're laying an example for them, because people will resonate with like, wow, that was deep. That person was so vulnerable. They were just honest. Now, like you said, there's definitely a place. There are some things you should share and there are some things you shouldn't share. There are certain levels to a relationship with a person, practical way that you can begin to put authenticity to practice. If you can think of any simple, practical ways.
I just think just the more that you're around that person, and maybe the more, honestly, it's just the more that you feel comfortable, and just look at how they receive what you've already said, and kind of not so much reading their body language, but reading like how they react.
Yeah.
But it just depends. Like I say that in the sense of like friendships, because like, you know, you can do that a little bit more, but like if you're actually like dating someone, then it's like in the beginning you can, but you don't want to do that too much. So what you do is you just be like, hey, you just be honest and be like, hey, I want to share this with you because I feel like I can. Yeah. And then after you say what you had to say, just ask, how did that like honestly make you feel? Like you asking follow-up questions, because even though you're still dating that person, and even if God has confirmed that you're supposed to do life with that person, you still are getting to know that person. That person is still fresh. So you ask those questions like, so how did that make you feel? To ask that question, you can share how you feel, and that person will be like, either they can be like, I don't know how to take that right now, but what I can say is, and they'll say something uplifting, or they may say something constructive criticism, like, you know, better here or there, and then it may come back a few days later and be like, you know, I was finally able to process everything. I had to wrestle how I felt about it. And, you know, when they tell you how they felt about what you share, you can't really hang that over their head, because if they've shown in the past that they don't hang what you share to them over their head, you shouldn't hang that over their head as well. So it should be a safe place.
Yeah.
You have to, in any relationship, whether it's dating, marriage, or just friendships, or just even business relationships, there's a certain level of intimacy of safe space.
Yeah.
Because, and each level looks different. Like a business partner, you ain't gonna tell them, you know, you're not gonna, like you said, that example, like, hey man, I thought about doing suicide because that project you gave me was really hard, like, or it turned my life upside down because I had other stuff to do, and you just threw it at my desk. Like, you're not gonna really divulge that to that person unless you already have a different kind of relationship outside of business. Yeah. But if it's just strictly your business partner, like, you're not really gonna say, you will say, hey, I had difficulty, you know, finishing this, you know, next time can you give me a heads up, or a little bit more heads up, or if you throw it at my desk, don't expect for me to finish in so much of a crunch time. You know what I mean? Just being like that way that person knows it did bother you, but you're not going into so much detail.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying after all that, it would be making sure you're when you choose to be transparent with other people, make sure you're creating a space where they also feel like they can be transparent. The other thing that I think you hinted to but didn't say it specifically was a very simple but practical way that you can begin to put these things to practice is start being honest when somebody asks you, how are you? So often, if I were to say, how are you? What do most people say?
I'm good.
Yeah, but most people would be lying.
Yeah.
Because most people, they got stuff going on. So a simple, practical way that we could be standing out is be honest. When someone asks, how are you? Be honest. Don't just say good and keep going. Just say, I'm a little busy right now. I'm a little stressed. Just you open that small little ways. That, and then adding this phrase to your vocabulary. Adding the phrase, I'm going to be really transparent. That phrase alone kind of gives a buffer. It gives you to that buffer and say, hey, I'm going to be really transparent. You give people a heads up, and that split second moment is enough time for someone to say, oh, they're about to be real with me, which in turn serves the other person, because when someone hears that and they're like, oh, they're about to be real with me. Wow, they're letting me into a little circle. Now that person feels included. Now that person feels like you care about them because you wanted to be open and honest with them. Now you've given room and an avenue and opened the door for them to also be transparent and to speak into that. And then you can create better friendships, better relationships, and it just kind of goes up from there.
Yeah.
That's good. So what are some, now that this conversation's kind of turned more into like talking about unity and community, what do you think are some of, you know what, we're going to change topics, changing subjects, because I think we feel like we could put a hat on that conversation right then, because I just want to make it more just about picking your brain. I just want to pick your brain. That's all I want to do. Give our people a chance to hear your thoughts, hear your brain or whatever. Just, I don't know, go on a rant for a second about like, what are some things you think need to change? I don't know. What is like the burdens that you have, like things that you see and you're like, that's not right or whatever. I don't know. Like what's been on your heart lately in general?
Been on my heart is for what needs to change.
Yeah, just in general. I don't know. Like maybe it's just me and I'm weird, but I'm like always ready to go on a rant. I'm always like, we're gonna talk about this.
No, I just think how we can relate to like other people and just being more empathetic with people. Just when you just not so much having preconceived notions about people. I think we can do a better job of just this is me speaking for myself as well, just being more real, just being more not so serious. You know what I mean? Like there's knowing the time when and to where to be serious and not have life by like in a chokehold. Because honestly, if you do identify as Christian, you know that our life is no longer our life. It's been bought by the best and biggest ransom ever, by the blood shedding of Jesus and him dying for us and all our sins and rising up again. Yeah. So once we recognize that obviously you stay organized in your life, but once you recognize that we only can control what we can control, I think we can be better people to our neighbors. Wow. And just not saying in every time that you feel it or you feel flustered that you're gonna react the same way, but you can from that situation and better serve you and better serve the next person that you have, and just having conversations with just different people and taking the time to understand where someone is coming from.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. Well, I say let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that because there's more questions we could ask about that process in itself. But I feel like we've used up our time for today, and as always, it's good just to chat.
Yeah.
just to chat. And I'm excited for another episode next week. And I think next week is going to be our last episode for the conversation segment. And then we'll have another series for you guys. But I won't give you spoiler alerts because
Drama.
yeah. I'm not going to give you no spoilers just yet. But that's because I want to make sure we got it all wrapped up and ready. But friends, thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, Adrian, thank you for just being awesome, being you. Shout out to Olivia because you cool. And thank you guys.
Baby.
Yeah. Thank you guys for just hanging out with us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at SLJ Ministries. Follow us on Twitter, but I don't really use that, so maybe not. You can follow us on TikTok at SLJ Ministries. And be sure to stay plugged in. We got a lot of cool things coming, a lot of cool things for you to stay connected and involved. And we want you to be part of this community as we begin to grow and build great things to unify the church of America, really, the church within the national church that we have. I would say the global church, but I'm going to do one step at a time. Right now we're going to start with Georgia, then we're going to move to the nation, and then maybe we'll move to the world. Who knows? But
Kingdom takeover.
One step at a time. And your involvement started right here on this podcast. And some of you have been listening for years, and we appreciate you so much. And just make sure you stay involved. We want to hear from you. You are part of this Simply Love Jesus family, and we want you to be involved, and we want you to be connected. God's going to do great things through you. I'm really excited for what God's got in store for us. But again, just let us know how we can pray for you. See you guys later.